It's close. It's getting very close. In today's video, I'm going to be going over what I'm looking for to potentially initiate some long-term long buys for Bitcoin. And as we'll be going over, well, there are many considerations here, especially on the higher term time frame. So first and foremost, I wanted to start off this video by stating that there is going to be a major crypto event coming up on, of course, Friday. That's going to be the Crypto Summit. And the expectation is that Trump's going to get up there and the crypto council, whatever, is going to get up there and talk about all sorts of bullish things. Hopefully a crypto strategic reserve. Hopefully, the U.S. government starting to literally open up a Coinbase account and buy some fucking Bitcoin, huh? I do think that whenever you have an event like this, it doesn't matter who's doing it, doesn't matter which side it's coming from, whether it be the left or the right, but ultimately, these events are almost always sell the news. And in fact, you just saw that on Monday. Bitcoin pumped up on Sunday based off a couple of tweets. Everyone gets the hopes and dreams revved up back again. And then Monday announcements come around. It has nothing to do with Bitcoin or crypto. And Bitcoin comes back down, essentially just traveling like $15,000 both ways in a matter of hours. It really felt like. So these sort of things need to be considered, because while I am going to be, suggesting that the potential low for Bitcoin is, maybe it's already in, but I do lean towards it going lower. If it's not, even if it's not that much lower, in fact, I don't think it'll be that much lower. Friday's event very likely will dictate that. And I don't suspect we're going to see any sort of major movement outside of the current range until then. So what am I trying to say? There's no rush. There's no rush, at least in the very short term here. Now, what is the range as of right now? And what would be the one thing that would make me not just reconsider that, but be massively fucking absolutely wrong about that? Well, that would be, of course, if Bitcoin does trade back above that Monday rejective high. If Bitcoin can do that, okay, fair enough. Bull goggles back on, and the low is in, and it ain't going lower, and just look up and to the right, I suppose. That would be a pretty obvious reversal right there. But until that happens, and until Friday events happen, I do suspect that there is still, or at least I lean towards one more move to the downside. Now, I see that there's a lot of new people on this channel, which is awesome. I think a lot of people coming in from Kyle's channel, which is super, super cool. Really happy to have new faces here as well. I just want to preface this whole thing by stating, if you're new here, you're going to see me be wrong massively many fucking times. Why is that? Because on this channel, we use probabilities to, come up with scenarios for price action. And even if you have, for example, a very high probability setup, let's just, for example's sake, say it's 99% probable to work out in the way that you typically look for it to work out. There's still that 1% chance that it doesn't. That is just a fact of reality, unfortunately, or fortunately. I think realistically, probabilities are the only thing that give you a long-term edge anyways, but that is long-term, not on a singular basis. Anyways, okay, let me bring up my notes over here. I almost lost my place, but I wanted to start off this video with a little bit of hopium that Bitcoin actually doesn't make a new low. And that would be predicated upon this meta signal setup right here, amongst a couple other things as well. But I think that this one is pretty, pretty cut and dry and pretty obvious. And the meta signal setup fired off on a daily time frame, which we don't see that often. And by the way, you can get these signals for free. You just need to join the link in the description below for meta signals. They also have their paid service as well, but they do shoot out a lot of free signals. So this one fired off at a price of 87,250. Again, this daily time frame, this can be major ranges, with the stop loss on a close, not a wick, but a close below $83,000. And so, Bitcoin could theoretically retest down around there, get a wick lower, just don't want to see a closure below. But it is suggesting, some pretty interesting targets right here. In fact, some moon targets, or at least what I would consider. But target number one, 91,500, that has a rather high probability to play out at high 60% to low 70% for the daily. The target number two at 95,620 has a much lower probability, around 50% to play out. But notice that would be back above Monday's high if it were to hit. So about a 50% probability that we do see that, before this signal is done. And then, of course, target number three, very low probability compared to the other ones at, I think, mid 20s, maybe even upper 20s percent, that is. And that is literally at new all-time highs at almost 114,000 US dollars price per Bitcoin. Anyways, So that's where it starts things off right here. Just a little bit of hopium, and then of course we should get into the next thing, which will be a significant combination of signals here. So we'll start it off with something that I think is pretty obvious, pretty cut and dry, which is the daily RSI. Bitcoin hit a very low level last week at around or just below 25, which does not happen all that often. In fact, I went and back tested all the times where it got, even anywhere around here. In fact, I mean, even on last August dump, we didn't actually see it. That was, by the way, when Bitcoin broke $50,000. We actually didn't even see it that low. We did see it this low back in August of 2023. What was price action doing during there? It was coming off of a major correction. Sounds familiar. Going sideways for multiple months after that. It took time. It took a lot of patience. Took a lot of time. But you can see that this was, in hindsight, a great long-term long buy areas. Bitcoin did head up many multiples from there over the course of the next year. I mean, basically until now as well. The last time before that we saw the same RSI level hit was literally at the end of the last bear market cycle when Bitcoin came down below $16,000. Again, did retest around that low about a month later, but in terms of price, it was very fucking close. It was very fucking close. And again, took months to kind of shake itself out, but long term, it was a phenomenal buy yet again. Even in the bear market, you can see that these same RSI reads were actually correlating quite well with pretty decent bounces, I would say. And then, of course, if we go back to the prior cycle, 2021, we can see that the only time that this level was even hit on the daily RSI, besides the Rona dump, which I don't know if you can include that in the bull market, probably not, but that was effectively on the low that we saw over the summer in 2021. You can't really see it on this chart because my red line is goofing it up, but yeah, this wick to the downside. I mean, that, yes, again, it went a little bit lower about a month and a half later, very slight amount, but ultimately, if you would have bought down here and you were thinking very long term, you'd have been very, very happy. I suspect. I mean, maybe you're a fucking crazy person and you're not. That's also possible as well. Now that signal is going to be combined with another one of our momentum oscillators, the Joule over here. And we're looking at a very specific signature where the Joule, which is the blue/cyan portion of this oscillator, comes down below 25 or anywhere around 25 and then initiates that green background. That is also a signal as well. So when those two things happen, we have seen essentially the same areas as the RSI. This one times it a little bit better, to be fair, but we do see a lot of the same areas as the RSI, one of them being the 2023 low right here. We had a couple of those same bounces in 2022, and also the low in 2021, again, that is not true. The only times that we saw it before that in the past 5 years were on these big bounces over here and also right after Rona. And, all of these were long-term, or except for in the bear market, were long-term long buys. So you have to be asking yourself, okay, is Bitcoin still in a bull market? If it is, then these signals do typically suggest that, it is a major low. If it's a bear market, still probably gets a nice bounce, but, probably not, perhaps not a major low. In fact, obviously it's bear market, so no. Anyways, again, I want to reiterate that while I'm talking about all this stuff, I do lean in the short term, or non the super short term, but after Friday, a little bit to the downside just because of the event. That's just one of my rules. I don't like, I don't like taking positions into an event like that. But yeah, okay. Yes, we've got that. And then, yes, we already met the Joule condition. Okay, great. And yes, okay. So let's move on from there and go over, I guess, if Bitcoin does come lower, where am I looking to buy? Well, there's one pretty obvious thing here that we've seen from cycle to cycle that has worked pretty fucking well for, again, having buy zones for long-term longs. And that would be between these two moving averages, the white moving average and the blue moving average. The white is a 200 simple moving average. The blue is a 377 exponential moving average. You can see that price action was oscillating between these two back during the majority of the 2024 correction. Again, anywhere between there was fucking great long term, many multiples up, or at least a couple. Same thing over here. This one not as perfect, but again, once it came down into this region, again, long term, that was a phenomenal time. And that you'll also notice that a lot of these same areas are areas that correlate with the other indicators we were looking at. Of course, when these things are flipped, meaning that the white is below the blue, that's bearish, so we ignore those signals. But you can see back on over here in 2021 as well, where did Bitcoin put in the low before that rally to new all-time highs? It was between these two moving averages. Yes, it did dip a little bit lower. Again, that's fine. We just don't really expect like a humongous deviation from these. Again, it's not going to be perfect. Nothing's perfect in trading or technical analysis, and especially tentacle analysis as well. So fair enough. Now, I do think that a tremendously large move is brewing, and the reason why I think that is twofold. One, weekly BBWP representing volatility is coming off of some of the lowest levels that we've seen for the longest time. I mean, really only comparable in recent with May of 2024, or basically last summer's consolidation. And then, of course, monthly is also at similar historical lows that we've really only seen preceding, massive market cycle moves. We're talking about August of 2023. We're talking about April of 2022. We're talking about June of 2020. And again, the volatility is direction neutral. It's just telling you that there's a big move. But, these were tremendously massive, monumental moves for Bitcoin. So, I would be aware that, I should state that I was stating on the weekend that I believe that this current piece of price action is going to take many months to just go sideways. Based off of that, I think that will be wrong. Just I want to continue to repeat that because, maybe some people haven't heard, and also, just that's what I'm looking at right now. Anyways, yes, okay, so we've got that. Okay. I'll go over my exact buy signals that I'm looking for, and I'll continue to repeat these from video to video. But what I want to do before that is talk about, just market cycle, I guess, bias. And I am still biased towards this market cycle not being over. It doesn't necessarily mean that Bitcoin has to make new all-time highs, but I don't think that is over, at least just yet. Here's the yearly chart. So each and every one of these bars represents 1 year of price action. You can see that the yearly has reconnected with that red moving average nearly every fucking year. And it seems to me that because last year closed so divergent from that moving average, we're getting our first move down to open up 2025 with hopefully a reconnect somewhere around that red moving average. That's coming in a little bit lower right now. Of course, it does depend upon where the closure is. So, it can get dragged up or pulled down, but it's not going to be by a whole hell of a lot. So it could give us, a good area of interest. And again, that would be low 70s to very high 60s. If Bitcoin comes down, much below, let's say November's low, that's where I start to get very skeptical of this market cycle. I'll put it that way. But for now, it does look, it does still look corrective to me. But yeah, anyways, that's why my bias on the higher term timeframes, I certainly don't think that we're going to see any like significant downside this year, like certainly not below, 2024's low. And that's all the way at 38,000. Yeah. So, I've seen a lot of people call for like 20,000, 30,000, these sort of things. I mean, maybe it does happen, but it's not, I highly doubt it'll happen. If it happens at all, this year, it'd be like a next year thing. Deal with it next year. Just kick the cone down the road. So yeah. Anyways, this one, the trend is pretty fucking obvious. And again, as far as the pivot point for the daily time frame, that would make me just blindly bullish nearly immediately. Would be back above Monday's high, Sunday's high. However, I did want to go over again the sort of specific buy signals that I want to see before I consider personally doing long-term long positions. And one of them, again, comes back to the hash ribbons indicator. This is a fundamentally based indicator. And until we get a buy signal on this indicator, I'm not I'm not interested in taking long-term long positions. It's just too risky. It's just too risky. Yes, that means I'm not going to catch the ultimate exact fucking low. That's just by design. That's just by design. Don't need to be perfect to make a shit ton of money. But these two moving portions are continuing to diverge from each other. And the only way that we're going to get a buy signal is if the red line crosses the gray, and they're actually just getting further away right now. So I guess it's not happening anytime soon, unfortunately. Again, that will very likely come after, it'll almost always come after the actual low, by the way. But so, you know, can take some time here. And then I'd need to see that signal for sure. And then one of two things. I'd need to see one of these two things. It doesn't matter which one happens, just whichever one happens in combination with the other signal. One, again, above Sunday's high. Yeah, okay, fine. It's bullish. Two would be if Bitcoin creates bullish divergence on the daily RSI, which we do not have just yet. Obviously, bullish divergence would imply that Bitcoin needs to make a lower low than its current low. And, you know, that would imply that Bitcoin needs to close below about $80,000 or so. And at that point, very likely you are going to have bullish divergence because the RSI was so exaggerated on last week's drop that, you know, it's going to be very, very difficult to get it any lower than that. So, you know, if we saw bullish divergence there and also that buy signal, I'd be very happy as well. You know, again, can that come all the way down to like 75? Can it come down to, you know, 70? I don't think that this is a huge deal, to be honest, because in terms of price, it's really not that far away from the current fucking low. Like, people are so obsessed with the low. I guess it matters if you're on the 1 minute time frame trading 100x leverage, but for normal non-fucking redacted people out there, don't care. Don't care. I'll put it that way. I'm more interested in the high probability play. So that is where we'll end things for today. Yeah, I think that's about long enough. Yeah. With all of that said, I want to wish everyone the best. I need to go back to recovering a bit more because I'm still actually feeling quite under the weather. So hopefully that leaves soon. But hopefully this video was also in some way helpful. If you find it helpful, consider subscribing. It'll also get these videos into your inbox because I update my thoughts, you know, every day as things change every day, of course. But yeah, that's where we'll end it. As always, until next time.